Well, that is the final nail in that coffin. Welcome into the Eagles post-game show here at Edge of Philly Sports. Uh, we all saw it coming. Let's be honest. Any thought that this team would have some magical turnaround, that they would be able to uh, muster something up and beat a bad team? Guys, I hate to break it to you, but the Eagles are the bad team. That's what I think it's hard. People haven't taken notice. Oh, well, they need a good game to get something right. A couple good plays, get something going. Every team that they have played in the last 6 weeks made us look like a high school team. And you could tell, you could smell in the air. It was a wait and see mentality. If you're watching the broadcast right now, you're watching Jason Kelsey walk off the field into the locker into the walkway there, head down, emotional. Looks like he's about to cry, to be honest with you. And this could very much well be his last game, and he has to play his last 6 games of his career, 7 games, whatever it was, in the fashion that they played. And it's just, if that's the end of it, it's a tough way to go out. Let's just say it that way, guys. Like I'm Big Al. I'm here with our boy Joey Marks, as he is Mad Marks today, as probably many people are mad something at the end of the day. Joe, welcome in, and thank you for being brave enough to come on with me tonight, because it's going to be a healing process with everybody. It's going to be a lot of anger. It's going to be a lot of visceral and spit and vinegar and piss and vinegar, whatever it is you want to do. But Joe, what are your just remarks at this point?
I don't know what the exact adage is, but it's in like a lion, out like a whatever. And it honestly feels like a mouse at this point. Like it felt like the one thing I'll say is this team is good. It's just whatever happened that the Niners came in wearing black and they just went to our funeral. They forced us to die. And um ever since then it just hasn't been the same. And I don't know what it is, but like there's an old adage in sports. It's the type of team you have when the losses begin to happen. When you start to struggle, when you start to fail, that's when the real team comes out. Look, you go 10-1, everyone thinks everything's good, that this team is what it is, and I was definitely one of them. And I still believe this team is good. I just don't think that they put the things together that they should have. And I definitely don't think this defense is good enough. Um, the amount of missed tackles that happened tonight. I mean, I played high school football. You talked about a high school defense, Al. I played high school football. I played outside linebacker. And let me tell you, the first thing that they do on training camp for high school football is tackling drills, and you're doing that in full pads in 90-degree weather. Like it ain't fun, but it gets you the idea that when you're exhausted, you still can rap and rip and take down. And these guys that get paid so much money that this is their job just completely forgot fundamentals.
Yeah, no, spot on him. Everything you just pretty much said there. I mean, I can't argue. I don't think most people argue. Well, let's take some of these comments here. Paul Patrick Nevin saying the offense and defense coordinator have to go. They're the worst. That's about all I gotta say. I love my Eagles, but they have to go. William saying Laurie's face was the face of a man cleaning house. He was definitely a face of a man who's got to make some tough decisions, which we'll touch on a little bit. But that will be a talking point here and for the next few days and into the week, plus into the postseason, or the end of the season, not the postseason, the end of the season here for you. Let's see. Carlos is saying can't defend the blitz. Teams just keep blitzing. Yeah, it's like playing Madden. The guy can't stop you. Like I made a joke before. I said, we talked about high school football. I coach, and there was a time that there was a team that I ran the same play 12 times in a row. 12 times in a row. And I even screamed it out. Just keep running it. Do the same thing again. Kept rolling my fingers out. I'm like, just keep doing it again. And stop me. And that was the thing and that's what every team in the NFL has been doing since we got smacked by the 49ers 7 weeks ago. So
I mean that's the other thing. You could say that for both sides of the ball. Like if the blitz going up an A gap or a B gap is working, the defense coordinator is like, "Yep, run it again." Like they can't
yeah.
stop it. Well, why am I going to go away from it? Maybe I'm going to disguise it more, but or disguise it in a different way by sending a different person. But I'm going to keep running it if they can't cover it. And I mean that's where in-game adjustments come in and yeah, that's where a lot of people have every right to blame the coordinators because that is their job to get these guys ready and to get the scheme ready to be prepared for that. I mean, it's not a shock Todd Bowles was going to throw blitzes at you. This isn't news.
Jeff saying they couldn't score 17 points that I picked for them to score. I gave Tampa 35. All coaches and some players need to go. And let's just talk on something. I've seen some messages, and I know on EOP on our Twitter and our social media, we posted, praying for Dallas Goedert, praying for Darius Slay. Some, garbage time injuries I think just seem worse when the team's playing as bad and you see a guy go down. Like him or not, don't like their attitude, whatever it is, or you want them to go, you don't want them here, you do want them here. It's injuries like that are scary, especially the one where if you're watching Darius kind of got bent in half the wrong way. So human body's not supposed to bend that way. So it's hopefully everything's okay. William saying omitting Kelsey and Cox, obvious. Swift should be re-signed. His usage was malpractice. Agreed. Franny Burbage, we all expect this, right? A lot of interesting names out there. If Laurie doesn't believe in Sirianni, and that's the question. Is like it's a tough decision for a guy. 3 years coaching, 3 years, makes the playoffs, makes goes to the Super Bowl but loses in it, and you got to fire him. Like that's a tough call. And where that call comes in is, did he lose a locker room? Did he lose the respect of his players, the coaches? I mean, there's Tim McManus's report came out just today saying Sirianni seems to be the problem. There's disconnect. Who's calling the plays? Jalen Hurts seems uncomfortable. Listen, Jalen Hurts a $200+ million quarterback. If somebody's going to go in this situation, we all know who it is.
Well, let's be clear about something. So, if Laurie were to fire Nick Sirianni, and let's go back a little ways to the Doug Peterson era. So you have a coach that took you to the Super Bowl and won it in Doug Peterson. Then now you have another coach, and both are youngish. I mean, Doug's a little older. But you have another coach in Nick Sirianni who took you to the Super Bowl, and you were 3 points away from potentially winning that game. And then you fire him soon after. It's going to be just very difficult to bring in a coach when you're setting the bar at, from the door, you Super Bowl or bust in 3 years. That's a hard sell for a lot of coaches because even if you have the talent that the Eagles do, they still have to implement their culture, their scheme, their language, everything into that locker room, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And
this team looks listless. This team looks defeated. This team wanted to play but didn't want to play. I know it's kind of weird to say it that way. Like I think they had in their head, like any other team who makes the playoffs, that they can make a move. But this team, I don't know. And the funny thing is, we beat up on the defense, but it's the offense who can't give the defense a break. The defense we know has glaring holes. The offense is a good offense on paper. The question is,
I feel like this whole team for the last 7 weeks has been like this. If this were me, maybe it was kind of like, yeah, like,
Dallas Goedert had those comments last week
Yeah.
about they kind of got they felt like they made the playoffs, and he didn't say cruise control, but kind of said like that coasted or whatever you want to say. That tells you a lot right there.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go, all right, we got the first place and we're locked in and we can just go in cruise control now.
Mm-hmm.
When you go from a ability to be the number one overall seed down to the number two, down all the way to number 5, and just getting your asses handed to you day in and day out for 6 weeks straight, that is a problem.
Yep.
Star Wars 99 saying Laurie needs a clean house from the top down. Howie Roseman needs to be first gone. The question is if it is a cultural situation, like if the culture in the locker room is an issue, again, you just mentioned Doug Peterson. Now you got Nick Sirianni, doing some good stuff, but then things fall apart. Like, is there a bigger problem? Is there more? And we've all defended Howie, we've all defended Jeff Lurie, and said, listen, guys spend money when they need to. They do good with the contracts. Some of the most recent drafting has been a lot better than past drafting. But overall, they leave. They prioritize certain things, but they underutilize some major glaring aspects that teams that are still in it right now who are doing well continue to use. And real quick, I want to just mention to you guys that before we move on here, that this Eagles post game show is brought to you by Philly Sports Trips. So forget the Eagles trips; they're over for the year, but they will be back for next year. But spring training is available for Philly Sports Trips. Multiple trips for spring training. Go to Clearwater, watch the Phillies get ready for this season, because that's where the hope's going to be now. Some warm weather in Florida. There's a reason to go down there that's not in Tampa right now. Or you can, if you want to stay in the cold, you can stay right here, and you could take a trip up to MetLife. Go watch the Flyers take on the Devils. And in an amazing outdoor stadium series. If you haven't been to one of these, they're fun. Philly Sports Trips does a great. I've been talking to these guys all the last few days. They've all been down there taking over Tampa, even though the Eagles themselves didn't take over Tampa. The fans were there, and Philly Sports Trips was leading the brigade. Check out phillysportstrips.com. So let me hit some more of these comments, Joe, and I got some more things I want to go over with you. William is they're kind of coming in fast and furious here. Hard to believe Patricia never heard of hot routes. Yeah, right. They never learned to adjust against the blitz from week 1 versus the Pats. I don't even blame Howie. He signed Bradbury off all pro berth. Don't pan out, but that's the same time he doesn't put players he signs in the position to succeed. Coaching does. Here's the question. Here's my thing with that. They kind of put themselves they backed themselves in the corner when they didn't re-sign CJGJ, who's now still in the playoffs, who's playing with Detroit right now, who of course was one of the better options that we had. Then they kind of were forced, then they kept Bradbury, and then they had to keep Slice, and they got 2 guys over the age of 30. And let's be honest, in the NFL, over the age of 30 for a CB, it's like Methuselah over here. Like it's you're old. Definitely, and he's broken. I think he's the most broken piece on that defense, and I think he will be gladly would leave Philadelphia right now, and I think Philly fans would gladly drive him out of here. But I do put the blame on upper management for this, because when was the last time, Joey Marks, that the Eagles drafted and nurtured a really good CB?
A good CB?
Half decent CB.
I go back to the Bobby Taylor years. Maybe Lito Shepherd. Those guys. It has been a while, and I go back to those guys, and maybe with the Kelly Ringo or the Ricks. Who knows? But you do need to keep in mind that when we had the Bobby Taylors, when we had the Lito Shepherds, when we had those guys, those kind of cornerbacks, we had the longevity at that position forever. So people that are sitting there going, well, you can't sustain a good defense. No, that's a lie. You can sustain a good amount of anything.
I mean,
It just depends on what you prioritize.
The Niners and the Ravens are doing it And they're finding guys. They're growing these guys, and they're why they're still on rookie deals, and they're able to use them and it makes something of them. Again, it's looking at their philosophy, build in the trenches. Understood, I get it, but you have to put some priority into the linebacker core.
Well,
You have
I'll go
you
one.
can't always buy cornerbacks because it's going to cost you. When you start buying them, it's going to cost you too much.
I'll go one step further with another team that's still making a run in the playoffs that also made a big splash within rookie corners, and that's the Houston Texans with Derek
Yeah,
Stingley Jr. and all those guys. Like, this is the difference: is when you, I get that the priority is the defensive line, but if we, as you saw tonight, if the defensive line doesn't get home and the ball gets out and to a quick slant or a screen or a deep throw, and your corners can't keep up or tackle, your linebackers can't cover. I mean, there was 2 or 3 times where two defenders were on one receiver. It's like, do you guys not know how to cover anymore? Like, did you guys lose track of like how to play defense? And that's where the quality
they lost
versus
something.
quantity
Mhm.
comes into play.
Yeah, and the Matt Patricia thing, what a reach on that one. Not that Sean Desai needed any extra rope, but you gave Brian Johnson, now maybe because of his connection and friendliness with Hurts, he got a little bit more rope. But either way, it didn't work out. Freddie's saying, if Nick is fired, how confident are you he would get another job? I think the answer to that question tells you what needs to happen. It's a very good question, Fran. I mean, I've known Franny for many years, and he doesn't really say smart things very often. But this is a good question. That's a very let's break this down. You want hold on, Fran? I'm going to come right back to that in a second because I want to answer a couple of these other questions because they'll be quicker. But I want to come back to this one. So, Franny, I really like this one, but hold on. Jonathan is saying Brian Johnson needs to go first. My high school coach could have defended this offense. I agree that this collapse wasn't historic as it was the lack of obvious adjustments. No, it was historic for how bad it fell apart. Being a 10-1 team, then only win one more game for the rest of the season and including one playoffs game. That's historic. That's a meteoric collapse.
I mean, I said this on the locker room. I mean, would we have felt the way that we felt at the end of the season if the losses were spread out in the season? Probably not. I mean, we probably would have said, okay, we're 11-6. Okay. And just said, that's what we are. We took a little step back, but we wouldn't have felt like the sky was falling
Yeah.
like
Well, I
it
think
did at the
most
end of the
people had
year.
us at a 12 to 13 win team.
I did.
So if
Yeah.
So if you were around 11, it's a one game
Yeah.
less than maybe you were
Yeah.
feeling. But yeah, no, maybe if it was spread. No, it's just that high hopes came in. I mean, I drank that Kool-Aid. Got
Mhm.
some on my shirt here somewhere probably. It's this team looked like they couldn't be stopped. Even when they should have been stopped, they couldn't be
Mhm.
stopped. They had like that never quit attitude. That's what scares me. And we're gonna get to Franny's question in a moment because that's what it kind of leads back to. That's what scares me is that what happened to that? What happened after that Bills game where we're never out of it until the clock runs out? The moment that doesn't happen, you're done. And the moment you got shellacked by the Niners, you're done. Williams also, this team has talent. Another coach will bite on that. Possibly. It was fun while it lasted. I tip my hat to Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. Yeah, I mean, I always said whoever sucked less in this game, but they did look like a much better team. But I hope Todd Bowles goes in that locker room and go, guys, enjoy the night, celebrate, but come back to work tomorrow. We have a short week, and we're going out to Detroit to play the Lions. And don't let this game get ahead of you. This team really just sucked. Like, we were picking this team apart. They should have never even been in here with us. Jeff is saying when it came out that AJ was out of the game, the chances really did have to win this game. I mean, yeah, yes and no. They could have won it without AJ if this team was playing as well as they were before. You can't score more than one touchdown. I mean, just a lot of shoot yourself in the foot situations. Defense can't stop anybody. This offense
Julio getting concussed was not a helpful
didn't help.
hand either.
Fire the whole staff, even Howie. That's what Mike's saying. Steve saying apparently Eagles in the second half are trying to transition recognition. blitz calls, etc., to Hurts to see if he could handle it going forward. Apparently, results cast doubt. Let's see.
Yeah, Bowles sent blitzes on different gaps, and
Yeah.
he sent it through different directions because he wanted to change the sight lines.
Mike saying pink slips should be handed out 5 minutes after the game.
Ooh,
Hardball or I guess it's hardball or Belichick. Mike saying I don't know about Belichick here. I don't know how that. I mean, I know. What's his? That might give Jeff Lloyd might change his status on how he handles things. For Belichick because he's just a big fan. But other than that, I doubt it. Kelsey assumed extra responsibility over the years. You can't bring back Sirianni after losing this team. William saying C. I don't know what that is. Is that he grading them? To me, it's a little excessive to do that time they did it. Lido and Sheldon, yeah, Steve, that's what Joey was saying. Gardner Johnson was offered a contract though. His agent fumbled it and took less from Detroit because the Eagles had to pivot to Slay to restructure and Bradbury. Yeah, but he was offered, but apparently it wasn't enough. But they ended up backfiring sort of, unless the Lions somehow win the Super Bowl this year. Tyler saying this team has given up on its coaches, bringing Tomlin or Belichick, basically someone with head coaching experience who can make both lines look great on paper. If you do the math, Philly has killer team, but if you have mediocre coaching staff, those killer players teams are trash. That's the thing is like you also need somebody whose philosophy has been different over the years. Like not going to just say in the trenches, like, oh, we're going to worry about linebackers. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But you do have to worry about the trenches because you have an aging line now. The bread and butter what you would have to lean on this offense, you couldn't lean on. Cam Jurgens had a crap game.
yeah.
Couple penalties, got blown off and lost in the blitzes. But yeah, no, it was not, we've been living off the name of a really good offensive line, and they talked about it even during the broadcast, but it has not been good lately. And it's across the board. I don't know if that's just this team is let down, Joe. I don't know if this team is just it's hard when maybe other parts of the team aren't firing on all cylinders or they're just not on the same wavelength. I'll let you answer that, then we'll jump into Franny's question.
Here's the thing: is when you're in the trenches and you're like kind of doing like the heavy lifting, you have to have fire. You have to have a reason to keep, strengthening up and going toe to toe with the guy across from you. And when you're winning, it's easy to be fired up. It's easy to feel like you're the Hulk and whatnot. But then when you start losing and you start seeing your defense faltering, you start to see these mental errors and you start to see some of these fundamentals go out the window and people dropping passes and people not getting open. You go from the Hulk to like Miss Invisible. It's
Joe's
just
nerding out on us right now.
sorry. But that's kind of where I'm at, is that this offensive line, which has been prided in this city for I don't know, better part of 4 or 5 years, showed to me in the last 7 weeks that they're cooked. And
Yeah.
and I love Kelsey and I love Lane Johnson, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they left.
Listen, no, I mean Johnson. I would love him to stick around. You need some sort of anchor there with them, and he's still young enough and got some years on. But Kelsey, I get it. Like it just might be time. Body hurts too much, and having something like listen, he might not have been back this year if it wasn't for the year that they had last year.
Yeah.
But because the way this year ends is to make his decision a little bit easier. Joe Shear with the astute observation here: the Eagles are stupid. That might be the most profound breakdown of the Eagles we'll have right now. Right now,
Joe could
that
just
might
mic
be.
drop. He could just
Yeah.
mic drop and walk away.
Joe just turned his phone off and went to bed and said, "There you go, guys. Enjoy that wholeheartedly." And I'm out. So let's jump on to Franny's question. And before we do, I want to remind you guys that this post-game show is brought to you by Sherry'sTickets.com. That's right, Sherry'sTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Use that great promo code EOP10 to save 10% off all the great tickets at Sherry'sTickets.com. That's sports, concerts, theater, you name it. No hidden fees. Not going to get bamboozled at checkout. Doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be in Philly area to do it. You can go to sherrystickets.com and put in that promo code and save 10% off. Already great prices, no hidden fees. Get the price you see on the screen is the price you'll pay. Go to sherrystickets.com today and get yourself some tickets because you might need something fun and interesting to do now that the Eagles, just to get this game out of your mind. But let's go to the comments here. And let's talk. Let's go to Franny's one. Here it is. If Nick Sirianni is fired, how confident are you he would get another job? I think the answer to that question tells you what needs to happen. So, Joe Marks, I'll let you answer this. If Nick Sirianni was fired today, even though there is a lot of coaching openings, and he was just in the Super Bowl, coaching the Super Bowl not a year ago, does Nick Sirianni get a job in the NFL?
I think he does. Now, the options that would be there, I'm not going to say he would then, go back to the Super Bowl with that team. I think he would be looking at less options. And I mean, let's be serious, is that when he walked in, they had some pieces in motion that the Eagles were starting, their roster was starting to turn over. Especially post Carson Wentz. But I could see him in Carolina. I could see him with the Chargers, especially with the Chargers job. He can't do any worse than Stanley. He really can't. I mean, you could literally just sit on the sidelines and do a better job than Stanley did. But yeah, I could see him getting a job. What he does with it and the culture.
Does he get another head coach job?
Yeah, I can see that.
Is it now? If it wasn't as wide open for coaching jobs this year as it is, this is one of the biggest head coaching openings in
There's
one
like
single off season,
8 or
9
or something.
yeah, and there still could be more. You never know. I mean, I doubt you're going to see another firing from any of the coaches in that team that went to the playoffs this year. But does he get it just due to lack of choices, or does he rightfully get another head coaching job?
See, I think he rightfully gets a head coaching job just from the one thing that's on his resume.
And not because somebody goes, well, he was just in the Super Bowl, we're going to take a chance on him.
See, that's the part of the resume that I think is going to speak loudest to any owner hiring him. Or any GM hiring him. I think that's going to speak the loudest in his resume. And look, it's a feather in your hat. However, what happened after? And that's going to be the follow-up question in the interview. Great. You got to the Super Bowl in your second season. Fantastic. The follow-up question is, then what happened? And if Nick doesn't have a good enough answer for it, then I might change my answer to no, that he might not get a head coaching job because no owner, especially if you're looking at some teams like Carolina has a crazy owner that throws drinks in fans' faces, and the LA Chargers, which is in La La Land, which means don't care land. You don't. I mean, sometimes it's not going to matter. Like the owner doesn't care; they're just crazy to begin with. But then there's other teams that they are going to care, and it is going to matter to them. It's going to matter what the direction that you take their team, that you take their product in. And so, yeah, I mean, if he doesn't answer that follow-up question of, okay, Nick, what happened after the Super Bowl? That's great. You got that on your resume. What happened after? If he doesn't have a good enough answer, he doesn't get hired.
Well, I mean, is there enough? Is it fair enough to give him enough of an answer through the fact he only had one season, even though he had a 10-1 start? He had a huge drop off where he went. Was it, I guess, 1-6 or 1-7 now, whatever it is now?
Troy Aikman said it on the telecast, and I kind of tend to agree with him, and I don't normally agree with Aikman on a lot of things, but he said, it's kind of hard to understand what went wrong and how the coaching and the players could not figure out how to fix this, even just to get one more win in the season.
Yeah.
starting out 10-1 and not being able to get to 12 wins just says all you need to say, all you need to hear as far as, because if there's a strong enough culture in that locker room that the coach has created, then there should be a strong enough culture to be able to overcome whatever happened with the Niners game, whatever happened with the Cowboys game, whatever happened with the Seattle game. There should be that strong enough culture. And if there isn't, that's on the head coach.
Yeah. Jay Gruden tweeted out, if I ever put a QB through what Philly is putting Jalen through, I apologize. Pick up a blitz. Yeah, pretty crazy, but true. Let's see. Let's get someone who's there. William saying Nick would get another job. Steven saying who got better over the course of the year? The Eagles, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo. It's a big reach, but to come up with anyone else? Yeah, I mean, anybody who really progressed, because I feel like Jalen Carter came out swinging, then fizzled out. Jordan Davis came out swinging, fizzled out.
I
mean,
like to say Kelly Ringo kind of stood out a little bit.
But he's just saying outside of that, it's like nobody really progressed.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's really trying to say, and that's
Eli
sad
Rick,
but true.
Eli Ricks, maybe.
I mean, he was okay. I mean, he wasn't a world beater in any which
No.
way.
Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown. That's who stands out.
I mean, he definitely did progress. But like they waited forever to give these guys any chances too, which was still kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Tyler Smith saying run the ball short underneath throws or over the middle, treat like boxing, keep pushing with the jabs and throw the haymaker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds so simple, but they just don't do it, and they got away with it. I mean, they came out and ran the ball twice in a row, and then they ran the ball 3 more times in the first half. Twice in a row to start the game, Joe Marks, and then for the rest of the first half, they ran 3 more times.
Yeah.
Like, it's maddening. It's maddening.
13 plays in between. 13 plays in between the last run out of the 2 in a row to the next run play. And I mean, Joe Buck was just like
they were relentless, but they were absolutely correct. Like their tackling was just that's another thing. Simplistic things like that. That should be football 101 on how to tackle. Why do we look like the only team in the NFL who does not know how to tackle?
I mean, look, that's like I said earlier, that was the thing that you learned in, high school or pee-wee football. It's like, you get in full pads and you tackle the dummies like 50 to 100 times until your arms feel like they're going to fall off. And when your arms start to get heavier, your arms drop. And when your arms drop, then you start to slip off of that dummy and you're not able to pick up or whatever. And they broke the number one rule. And I used to get away with it.
Up?
Well, not even that. They would go at them from the shoulders up. When you wrap up, you're supposed to go from the chest, like the breastbone, to the hips. And you're supposed to grab that area, wrap up and rip down. That's what I always was taught. And it never failed. Believe me. Like the only difference, the only reason why I didn't have more sacks in my high school career was because every quarterback was pretty much a mobile quarterback. So they just ran away from me once they saw me break out of the gap. So I was a adequate linebacker. I wouldn't call myself a speedy linebacker, but that's the thing is, but when you had a running back coming right at me, he wasn't getting past me. And I heard so many of these guys just like the one guy that Moore that ran in a touchdown. Like he was running all around. He was literally doing a Madden play where he was running all around and no one could tackle him. It was almost comical.
The one Bradbury let up where he just whiffed on the tackle.
Yeah.
That was the season in a nutshell right there. Let's hit some more of these comments, Joey Marks. There was 53 this was 53 no players not buying 53 players not buying into the philosophy on both sides 100%. Craig saying if Lurie doesn't fire Sirianni, he doesn't give a shit. Pretty much how a lot of people feel today. The fact that they didn't make the move from Bradbury to Ringo Says all you need to know about the coaching staff, at least defensively. I'm sure it has a lot to do with the money they wrap up in them. Ted Nolan screwed a player's wife and never coached again. It depends on optics and what went down behind closed doors. Steve, that was it's out of left field, but I hope that wasn't the reason. That'd be pretty crazy. Paul saying we need to keep Sirianni, the great head coach. It's below him that he has to gotta go. He's taking the blame, and he is. That's what coaches do because he didn't want to cause conflict. But the defense coordinators suck, especially the offensive coordinator. I want Vrabel. That's what Franny's saying. RJ saying time to clean house. Joey's saying Vrabel will be the insurance policy when they fire Nick in a season or so. So Joe's saying he thinks that they'll bring Vrabel in as a defensive coordinator, and if things don't get better, then Nick Sirianni would go, kind of like a la what they did with Schwartz with when they brought in Dougie P.
Just keep in mind, Vrabel better not be the head coach because you remember where he came from and who left on bad terms with Vrabel, Mr. AJ Brown.
Well, actually, I think he left. No, I think he left on bad terms with the GM.
Well,
I
yeah,
think Vrabel was okay because Vrabel was visually upset when they made the trade.
yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if he has a problem with Vrabel as it is.
But my dream coaching.
My thing is, I think Vrabel gets a head coaching job. I mean,
I do too.
He would have to be okay with taking the position, the lesser position, even if the Eagles were willing to throw money at him. He would have to be okay with that.
Honestly, I think he's a shoo-in for the New England job. I think that's where they're going to put their money in, is to getting Vrabel in the building and wooing him until he says yes. But my dream scenario for coaches, and I know this is like illogical, but my dream scenario for coaches would be Harbaugh as your head coach, Saban as your offensive coordinator, and Vrabel as your DC. I know it'll never happen, but that would be an amazing coaching staff. I mean, if you can't coach with that, it may be too many cooks in the kitchen, but at least if they're all in charge of like their own little zones, it could be successful.
Mm. Johnson just said he had a few years left in him. He did say that. He said he made it sound like he wasn't going to re-up any contract. He felt like he was going to play this contract out, barring any injuries. Stephen St. Lane is doing the best to bite his tongue and not out someone right now. Weird times that the Sixers and Flyers are good vibes teams right now, right? William is spot on. Sirianni has zero chances. I don't know if he means the coaching again or coaching here. Who would be your HC replacement options? I say Vrabel. That's William Butcher. I don't think the O-line has ever retired an All-Pro, have they? Good point. It's a good point. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I don't care where Sirianni gets another head coaching job as long as it's not back with the Eagles. Franny's saying if you were a GM, would you be like, bring Nick? I can't believe he's available. No shot. I don't know if they would say I can't believe he's available, but it's like, listen, you see this with quarterbacks and other key players. Reclamation projects. People took a chance on Carson Wentz, but he looked broken because he can do it, and you have an ability. You think you have the ability to kind of reel that in. I could see a coach pick him up, but that's not the right reason. That's not the right reason to pick him up. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, he would definitely get a job because he's just that good."
Well, keep in mind, I mean, as much as people want to scrutinize and criticize Dougie P, and especially what happened at the end of this season, when Dougie P went to Jacksonville, he did do well with a fairly young team. So, I mean, like when you have these coaches that go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl like Doug did, sometimes GMs just look at they have tunnel vision. This is why Belichick's going to be able to write whatever ticket he wants because he has the most Super Bowls out of any of the available.
I mean, listen, here's my thing with Belichick. I don't know if he has the the it factor anymore to do. I'm not to say he can't do it. I mean, he's listen, 6-time Super Bowl coach. I think he could do it again. It's just is it past his time for his style? Can he adjust to the different style? Uh, um, all that kind of stuff.
I go
Uh,
back to like the Bill Parcells at the end of his career, coaching career. He
mhm.
he just didn't have it like he did in the beginning of his career, and
Yeah.
I think Belichick's kind of hitting that wall.
Well, I mean, if he gets a good quarterback again, and he doesn't have to worry, and a team like the Eagles, an offensive team a team that has really good offensive pieces, but he can fix a defense and get and maybe you wouldn't like Belichick, but think about it. What guy more than anybody can get the Eagles to bend some of these philosophies that they have?
Mm.
Not utilizing the linebacker, not doing, not um, cultivating any of your secondary
But you
players.
know what that means. If Belichick comes, how he goes. Because Belichick is a person that needs the keys to the car,
Well, that's
the
that's
house,
my
and
point.
everything
Yeah,
else.
that's the one thing that would be like I said. It would be it would be Lori's wet dream, but at the same time nightmare because it's
Yeah.
almost like Chip Kelly, but Chip Kelly proven, not Chip Kelly the thought to be this super genius.
Yes.
Steven saying Kotite was the last collapse of this magnitude. Did he deserve the Jets job? I think the Jets job's punishment enough for anybody. Sirianni needs to drop to an OC before he takes another HC. Let's be honest, it wasn't for Shane and John. They would have never made it. Look how those two did in their first head coach. I mean, Jonathan Gannon didn't have a great year. He looked better at the end because he walloped on us. But no, I mean, obviously, Shane Steichen was definitely a linchpin in this one.
Yeah.
I haven't replied to the offensive defensive coordinators got lazy, and didn't do anything more. Just let the players go, relying on what they players can do. That's what happened, and the problem they got lazy. Um,
Well, I don't
yeah,
know if the players
I
got
don't know, but
lazy as much as
I
the
think they, I think
play
they.
call just got too like the coaches didn't
It's
communicate
hard
the
to fight.
play.
It's hard for something you don't believe in. It's hard to fight and hard
Right.
to play for a coach or a scheme or another group of players. Like if you don't like your quarterback's a real jo. That's when O linemen maybe don't block as well as they normally
Well,
can. Things like that.
Slay had a comment before tonight's game about because he had gone on he gone to do surgery when Patricia took over as DC. Um when Slay came, so this was his first game back with Patricia calling the plays. He basically said he's like, this is hard because usually the defense takes on the mentality, the personality of the defensive coordinator.
Hmm.
But when we got to know Sean, and now you flip the script, and now we have to like know what Matt Patricia's like, and kind of understand his signal calling, his mannerisms, like how confident he is in what you're trying to do. Like there's a lack of comfort, and
Yeah.
I get that. And you could definitely tell there was a big confusion with some of these younger players on that defense. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't like 10 veterans on that defense. This is like 4,
Mm.
so
S- Steve saying not a single third down conversion. That is gut wrenching. Franny said didn't realize Brian Urlacher joined EOP. I think he was making fun of you when we were saying that we are talking about your glory days as linebacker. Um,
thank you
Her,
for the compliment. I'll take
yeah,
Brian
right,
Urlacher all the time.
right. Hurts preaches execution. Every QB in the playoff post game has said it has to be about execution. Well, it can't run or punch it underneath. Then you need to then to me that falls under coaching staff. We keep running same old plays. I mean, not just same old plays. Every play looks like it takes forever to develop. Like I feel like Brian Johnson out there, like trying to teach these guys plays, and like, why are we going through all these steps? Like everything. Like watching the Eagles play versus anybody. Like if you watch that Green Bay and Cowboys game, Everything looks faster on both sides, even though the Cowboys were getting walloped. It looked faster. Everything always looks fair. I'm watching the Detroit game and the Rams game. Things look faster. Than when the Eagles do it, it just looks clunky, not fluid. Like that's another problem. Like what? Like it doesn't. Everybody doesn't know how they're executing. Todd saying Nick is out of here. What does he do? Be honest with you, Todd. I don't care if he's out of here. If he's out of here, if anybody's out of here, I don't care what you do. Like I know it's my job to talk about it, but and we'll keep an eye on afar for a short time, like watching Dougie P doing Jacksonville for the first time, and Carson when he went, and we watched Carson watching for the first year at the Colts. But Nick Sirianni, I mean, once they leave, I don't care. If that is the if that is the string or the cord that Jeff Lurie's got to cut, then at that point, I don't care what he does. He's also saying Nick Sirianni is clueless. He's out of here. What does he do? Oh, it's kind of the same question. The Pats already hired Mayo. Yep, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. William's right. You said Vrabel would be good for the Patriots, but they already hired their linebacker coach in Mayo.
Okay.
Steve says, does the front office learn from this and change their philosophy? Steve, it took. So when they won the Super Bowl last year, what problem it caused is that they got high on the hog and they thought they were like they had the secret recipe. And then 2018 didn't lead out the way we would hope. 2019, they had Carson Wentz even had to take a bunch of no name jobbers, wide receivers, to beat the Giants to get to the playoffs, to get knocked out early on in the Seattle game in that first round of the playoffs and lose. And then they finally, once Carson was out of here, it looked like they finally learned. But again, did they really change the philosophy? Did they just find another guy who will do what they want him to do, who's going to be a good soldier boy to them and not press back and say, listen, this is my team. This is my group of guys. If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on my own. And maybe that's a reason he sticks around. Maybe that's why they don't fire him, because Howie and Jeff know that they kind of, if they had any comments or anything on strategy or that type of play calling philosophy.
The thing that's been mentioned about under Lurie's regime is that he has not been known outside of the Chip Kelly hire. He has not been known to hire big name coaches. He's been known to hire guys that he knows maybe are workers, but that didn't have like a Belichick is a name coach, but like a guy that they talked about tonight on the Buccaneers, the OC on the Buccaneers. Like he's going to get a job. He's interviewing for the Panthers job this week. So, you got to understand is for Lurie, there's a part of it where if you want him to bring in a head coach that's going to have some clout, like a Belichick, like a Vrabel, like someone who's established, then Lurie has to change his philosophy. And I'm not sure that happens overnight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Steve said you don't need brain surgery for this offense to work. That's true. I mean, it really is true. I mean, look at Green Bay, look at Jordan Love, look at Matt LaFleur, young guys. They definitely know how to find quarterbacks and wide receivers in that organization.
I'll go to the Texans. Look at CJ Stroud, a rookie coming in with a Texans offense that no one thought would be.
But they all have something in common. They all common is that they run they run a lot of the same plays, but they run them out of different formations.
Yep.
They run motion. They disguise packages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not 100% predictable. We are predictable. Like that is the biggest problem. Todd Green, this is a sad way to end such a promising start with so much talent on this offensive side. He's a question mark, but that was more of a statement. Tyler's saying Belichick's great offensive head coach. On offense with Jalen, just let Jalen run the offense like he did with Brady. I think they'd say defense a great coach. I don't know about that.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
Joe's disagreeing. He's saying uh, he is over. He's like saying Belichick's over. He's saying Billy is DC. I think he was just correcting him. When his Belichick as a GM worked out, laugh out loud. Pat's last few drafts were awful. Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't want that. The fact that they couldn't tackle tells you they were checked out. They haven't been able to tackle in weeks though.
Yeah.
So they've been checked out before they were out of it. Like I don't get it. Joe saying Jason Kelsey walking past everyone saying not today just broke my heart. Um, you know, he was hugging Jeff Stoutland like that was the last time they were going to be on the sidelines together. I mean, I'm not reading into anything. It's just body language, and it was a very emotional moment. And Jason Kelsey is fabric of this community, fabric of Philly sports, interwoven into that fabric, I should say. And he hurts, we hurt, and it's
Yep.
it is tough. It's gonna be tough without him one way or the other because that
Look,
not seeing Jason Kelsey is gonna be tough.
this is going to be a hard offseason for Eagles fans because there's going to be a lot of tough pills that we're going to have to swallow, whether it's seeing Kelsey, walk away, whether it's Brandon Graham walking away, Fletcher Cox, whether it's a turnover at the head coaching position, whether it's a turnover with regular players, like just what we do to kind of bounce back because this isn't like some of the other teams like the Phillies, we can't just run it back. Like it isn't going to produce anything different.
But at the same time, you've seen a lot of NFL teams turn it around pretty. I mean, look at Houston making the playoffs, winning a big game against a really stout defense in Cleveland, and with a guy who has a pedigree, Joe Flacco. I've never been a huge Joe Flacco fan, but still been there before. So you in the NFL, you can turn it around and quickly, and we still have a significantly good offense on paper, but can it be ran correctly? And can
Yeah.
the defense be adjusted enough correctly to be at least middle of the pack or better?
Well, I mean, your biggest question marks on offense, and I'll start with offense for the offseason, is Devontae Smith. His contract will be coming up soon, and you're going to have to contemplate whether you're going to pay two receivers the amount of money you're going to pay them. Then you have DeAndre Swift, who's going to be a free agent, and like another commenter mentioned earlier in the show, you need to re-sign him. For a guy who's at 1,000-yard rusher, even if this was his first year doing it, doesn't matter. That guy, like that commenter said, it's a malpractice how little he got to touch the ball. And on the defense, you have to figure out how to either trade out of these corners, this corner pairing, and get younger and focus on that. But now you're not just focused on that. Now you got an edge rusher if Brandon Graham retires that you have to replace. You have linebackers that are inadequate. Like, I'm not even going to say like good. No, they're inadequate. They're not NFL players. I don't care everyone who said that getting Shaq Leonard was going to make it. No, it wasn't. Listen, I don't care if you had Ray Lewis coming out of the smoke, coming and play linebacker for the Eagles. There was like disarray with what scheme they were playing, what position each player had to be in. There was no camaraderie in that locker room defensively. There's going to be a lot of hard decisions because are you going to continue with, Byard's another one? Are you going to continue with him? That hasn't worked out the way that everyone expected. And Blankenship on the other side, like there's a lot more questions, and I'll agree with you on this. There's a lot more questions and hard decisions that need to be made in this offseason on the defense than on the offense.
All right, real quick, we got a couple more comments here I want to get to. Steve saying that's all effort. The team went down with Big Dom. What are they going to do with all those Italian flag hats? I would like to know because I want to get some of those Italian flag hats. As they don't have many Italian or any. I want to see like Phillies have a lot of like, based on different ethnicities, but the Eagles don't. So I really want one. RJ saying bubble screens, bubble screens, bubble screens. Yep. Can make you vomit. All I know is I'm watching CJ and Brian Branch in the secondary yesterday, and I'm shaking my head. Yeah, we could have had CJ and we could have had Brian Branch. But would Brian Branch be Brian Branch if he was in the Eagles? Like, that's the question. Can they cultivate those guys? Is it not the players that we have, but the cultivation of these players, the young guys? I'm not talking about Slay or Bradbury. I'm talking about the other guys.
Well, I mean, could
Um,
Kelly Ringo could have taken a better, or Ricks, could they have taken a better step up if the
Would
scheme
the
or
Eagles have done it? Like, that's
right?
another thing. Did the Eagles wait too long to bring him in and give him any
Yeah,
play time? Not
Nolan
to
Smith
say, like,
too.
yeah, Vrabel won't be a yes man. He coaches his guys. That's what William's saying. Any team that hires Sirianni or Johnson must be desperate. Yeah, I love all these questions. Like, Johnson's like going to get a hiring job. Like, hey, man, go right ahead. I would love to see what they're seeing. Lori may ask Kelsey to stay. Yeah, but Kelsey's got to want to stay, and he's got to feel physically able to. If he feels like he can't do it 100% and he's too beat up, I mean, if anybody watched the Kelsey documentary on Amazon, I mean, that was the question. He's getting older. He's got kids. He doesn't want to get any serious injuries where he couldn't take care of them, and he's in pain constantly. I don't know, man. I really feel this is finally it. I mean, I could be completely off. This is more just my gut feeling today, just the reactions from him there. Like, it just seems like everything's leaning to that way right now. Watered down NFL equals in it every year. True. Williams saying the whole staff should ask Kelsey to stay, but if he wants to go be a dad and a husband, then you need to respect that. Kelsey owes the Eagles nothing. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Run the ball, throw it over the middle, short plays, open big plays. Tyler, preaching to the choir over here. Ertz not coming here is very interesting. Steve, I don't know. I mean, was he offered anything? That's my question. Did they want him here? Like, not that I wouldn't want him here, but like, did they not? Did they not want him here?
I heard a report they offered him a contract, but that it was between us and another team, and they didn't disclose what the other team was.
Steve saying, where was Shaq Leonard today? I don't know. He had to say, pick Eagles or Cowboys, he would have came out the same way. Ertz didn't go anywhere though. That's what William's saying. And defense may be aggressive and get after the ball. And Mike saying, let's see, Kelsey is gonna go to KC for 1 year. I don't think he does it. I don't see him doing that. It was the other way around. I could see that.
Yeah,
But I don't know. You just don't know why we have. I just don't know why he just doesn't say, "Hey, everyone, this is my last year," and do the victory tour. Because you know what, it's because
that's
he's
not
not.
him.
It's not even just that. I think it's just not decided, and
Yeah.
he has to play it out. He has to see how it plays out. So I get it. It's a little annoying. I could see if it was any other player, maybe I'd be like, "Come on, man, make a decision."
Look,
But
he's not going to
I
pull a Tom Brady. He's not going to retire and come back in like a year. Like, he's not that kind of guy. If he's
it's
going to
not even just
go,
that. I just hope he doesn't string it out long again. Like, I think he needs to make that decision way before March. I mean, listen, you already have his heir apparent.
yeah.
Hopefully, Cam Jurgens did not have a good night. So I mean, I'm not one night will not swell my change over here, but let's see how he does. The draft needs to be all defense. Need youth infusion. Um,
Don't
yeah,
disagree with that. Don't
yeah. I mean,
disagree with that at all.
or it depends on what they pick up in the free agency opens. Because actually, I think I'm trying to see here. Shefty, oh man, I just had it too. Hold on 1 second. He tweeted something out. Like, pretty much, it was all. So here's the Eagles' key free agents of this offseason: Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, DeAndre Swift, Quez Watkins, Opeta, Nick Morrow, Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard,
See
Bradley
ya, see ya,
Roby.
see ya.
Yeah, Shaq Leonard, Bradley Roby, Zacchaeus, Boston Scott. He'll just wait around for us anyway. Don't worry about him. Marcus Mariota, Julio Jones, Jack Driscoll, this guy named Rashad Penny.
Oh,
Rashad,
I don't.
never heard of him. Never
Nope.
heard of him.
Nope.
And Brandon Mann, and of course Jason Kelsey. He has a decision to make this year too. Let's see. Any O line ever retired in All Pro? I'm trying to think, like a Runyon, maybe. I'm just trying to think, like when they retired, were they an All Pro?
I mean, I want to say either Runyon or Trey Thomas.
Did he
Um,
retire though? Did they retire here as an All Pro?
See, I don't think Runyon did. That's
Because he's saying he's going to the Pro Bowl and he's retiring at the same time. If he does retire, um, yeah. But like I said, I hope he makes the announcement not too long after the Super Bowl. You know, he might go there and watch his brother if the Chiefs end up making it. Be interesting to see how that plays out. It's not like he's washed. Kelsey is still an All Pro. I agree with you, but it's about how Kelsey feels.
yeah.
Like I said, if you watch the documentary, he's constantly in pain, sore, and then playing these long seasons back to back, and then having just having the way the season ended, and getting beat up the way he did, it probably does sway his opinion a little bit on what he wants to do moving forward.
Well, I'll add one more like nugget to that. The tush push doesn't help a guy who's like on the bottom of a pile of manhood that's like over a ton. Like that doesn't do anything for your body. That doesn't help your body. And like they've used the tush push a lot this year
Man, even
where
I got busted today.
yeah. And I mean like that's when I knew things were gonna go sideways. I'm like, well, there it is. There's the sign that things are not gonna turn our way. But Kelsey's underneath that pile. Like every time. Like so just imagine that they call a tush push and you're like, really? Like, and you're Kelsey and you're like, really? I got okay, whatever. Go and like at some point your body just says enough and you have to just listen to it. And I agree with the one commenter. It's like, look, Kelsey doesn't owe the Eagles anything more than he's already given this
Mhm.
franchise. And I could say that about him, and I could say that about Brandon Graham. Um, they were both picks in circumstances in opposite circumstances where Kelsey was projected to be like a backup for his career. And Brandon was projected to be like this stud edge rusher. Both kind of did their thing throughout their careers, but Kelsey rose above all of them. I mean, this is a guy, look, let's just call it like it is. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt about it. Steve saying the Flyer, let's go Flyers. All hail Matty Money. Please don't blow up his head anymore. It is. I've already had a bow down and earlier. Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to kiss the ring. All right. Like, that's just not me.
But you got to admit, a man was right. He was right.
I understand. I can admit he was right. I'm just
I mean, I
not
can
going to kiss.
understand him. Like he definitely went against the grain, and I think he deserves his Matty B victory tour to a point. But I'm sure he's going to enjoy it. Howie shouldn't be allowed to draft guys anymore. He looks at the O line, D line, pass rush guys, and defense. Never looks for coverage guys. Doesn't value linebackers, secondary guys. He only has guys who will post there because they have to, but no intent of being great. It's just that it's not the philosophy's not working. I mean, you had the best guy in the draft, arguably, in Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis up front, and after halfway through the season, they couldn't sack a potato.
You know,
Um,
and I go back to something you said, Al, and I'm going to point out something 2 years in a row. When we did our live draft show that I was on, one of the nights that I was on, one year that we had at South House, it was like the round one, and I was begging for the Eagles to draft Asante Samuel Jr. Didn't do it. Then it was, I believe, a year or so ago, maybe 2 years, where it was day 3 and we were at another establishment, and I was begging for Reek Woolen in day 3, a day 3 corner, and I kept asking you, Al, as Tariq Woolen been chosen? You're like, nope, not yet, still on the board. I'm like, come on. And this is a guy potentially in Seattle that is going to be a multi-year All Pro, multi-year Pro Bowler. Now I get it. The scheme is important for both Samuel and Woolen, but like you said, it's you got to cultivate the talent first. You have to bring in talented guys. You can't bring in a Sidney Jones and expect him to all of a sudden be a shutdown corner. That's not how it works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's get the last couple because we're going to end up here. William saying, I agree. That's what I said. If Kelsey wants to be a dad and retire, he needs to respect that regardless if he still has gas in the tank. I think he has gas in the tank too. Like, again, it's like what he feels is bad. I mean, like we always talk about every time a guy who retired when he was probably still in his prime was Megatron. And just, he did it for all the right reasons, and the reasons were himself and his family and not wanting to be a slobbering vegetable at age 60, and not being able to bend down and play with his little kids and all that. So yeah, I mean, I think they will no matter what. I don't think they're going to be forceful. Jordan Hicks is the last good linebacker they drafted. And that was CK, I believe. Chip Kelly, I guess he's saying. Was that Chip Kelly? Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah,
And
but
Ryan
that was a
saying
fizzled out firework.
teams stopped the Eagles pass rush because they knew that's all they're all on defense. It's not just the pass rush wasn't getting pressure. It was the teams wouldn't allow the Eagles to get pressure on the sacks. Teams going to games teams going to games looking to stop pass rush. Absolutely. But here's the thing is, if you watch simple things, especially like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, they were easily getting beat by teams with really not just like mediocre O lines, but bad O lines, like the low bottom feeders of the NFL, and they 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 weren't stunting correctly. They weren't staying in their lanes at times, and people are like lanes, and there is lanes for
Mhm.
putting on defensive pressure. And they were easily just getting thrown off and just pushed out of the way. They were, if the O line of the opposite team of the opposing team, they would stunt everybody to one side except maybe pull the opposite guard and maybe tackle and be able to run it out, sweep it out, do some sort of quick 5, 6, 10 plus yards. And they bid on it a lot, and they looked tired and gassed very easily when we were praising how well they looked early on. And it's just like, did Jalen Carter hit a rookie wall? But what happened with Jordan Davis? Guys, there's a lot of questions we
I
could
mean, I
answer.
I was proud that this defensive line actually got to Baker a couple times tonight. I was happy about that, but that was the only
Yeah,
bright
apparently this
spot.
guy Josh Sweat's on our team. Heard about
Oh,
him. He showed up tonight. He had a sack tonight, but that's about as all I was going to write home about.
first sack since week 9.
Guys, remember, maybe you feel like some criminal injustice has been done to you. Well, you go to David R. Cherry. That's right, Dave Cherry at cherryinjurylaw.com, 610-565-0300. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, and criminal law. Dave Cherry is the man with the plan. If you get hurt at work, car accident, or personal injury, go to cherryinjurylaw.com or 610-565-0300. Let Dave Cherry fight for your rights. That's right, guys. Dave Cherry is the man, 610-565-0300.
Al,
Uh,
I was thinking about this, and I was gonna bring this up on the locker room, and I still might, but worst collapse of recent year. The Phillies, the Sixers, or now the current Eagles?
I mean, I don't know if it's worse collapse or just more dramatic collapse in the sense that the Eagles, like I said, 10-1, and then you couldn't only win one more game for the rest of the season. Phillies, getting bounced when you had 2 home games left, only had to win 1 against the Diamondbacks is a pretty big collapse too. So that's a tough one, but I would say maybe this one's fresh. It was like a rocket ship taking off, and it just decided to fall before it hit the atmosphere, got out of the atmosphere. Like,
Yeah.
10-1, here we go. We're about to get into space, and now we could eke out 1 win, barely eke out. We almost lost all those games. Like, take that into consideration for a minute, Joey Marks. Quick consideration: we almost lost every game since we played the 49ers.
Because that Giants win was not pretty.
And it was very close.
Yep.
And if it wasn't Christmas night, I wonder if that would have happened a little bit differently, because some guys might have been kind of like, it's Christmas. We're out of it already. I'm not going to put up a fight. I mean, I guess we'll find out. Steve saying Dallas Goedert and Slayer going to see David Archeri. Eagles' worst collapse. No, Eagles can't cover. They don't have the talent and personnel, so they can't do it. Try to get pass rush on teams because they can't do anything else on defense. 2023 Eagles are the 2020 Steelers. I didn't follow the Steelers enough in 2020 to make the comparison. Trying to think. It was a complete collapse, though. I would have to go back and look at that and make that decision. Phillies were a bigger kick in the nuts per Steven. Eagles were claws on the chalkboard. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting way of putting it, but I think they're pretty big in my eyes. Can Dave Cherry help me sue the city of Philadelphia for emotional distress from their sports teams? I may be interested. Call him up. Listen,
see what happens. He'll listen.
The Sixers are getting more like punked. Sixers were more like getting punked by Ashton Kutcher. That's why I didn't even mention the Sixers in that sense, because it's just we expect that to happen. We didn't expect this team to fall off a cliff during the season. Guys, that's about it for tonight. But I do, real quick before we go, I want to mention, talk seriously for just a moment here with you. EOP took kind of a hit this week. Lost a good friend of ours. He's part of the EOP family, EOP network. He's a friend of ours, a father, a husband. Gus, Gustavo or Gus, how you know him? If you're a fan of the of MLS soccer and the Union, you've seen him on the Attacking Third. You've seen his articles on our website, writing about the Union, covering it in the press box. We found out earlier this week, or just a couple days ago, he passed away suddenly. Then we want to just send love and respect to his family. Know that the EOP family is here for him. And if, guys, just send some love and prayers to his family if you could. And remember us here at EOP, because we're all mourning his loss right now. So I didn't want to bring it down. Not that we weren't down enough on that one, but I did want to mention it because we'll mention it a couple more times throughout the week. I'm sure on other shows, and people will bring it up, and we'll have a post tomorrow just kind of putting out our condolences to the family. But I just want to let you guys know that happened, and a good young man was taken suddenly. So, guys, other than that, Joey Marks, thank you for joining us. I want to thank Dave Cherry at cherryinjurylaw.com, Philly Sports Trips, Cherry's Tickets, and just for being awesome sponsors throughout this whole season. We will be back to the pre and post games and halftime shows next year, of course. There'll be a ton of draft coverage coming your way. That there isn't always. Check our YouTube page, and we're going to be updating a lot of new stuff for you guys coming in the coming months. So enjoy. Also, catch the Flyers, Sixers, and the coming Philly season will be starting. So plenty of stuff to cover here on EOP. So don't go anywhere. This isn't the end of it. So, guys, thank you for joining us. He's Joey Marks. I'm Big Al, and we want to thank you guys again. We will be ending off the 2023 season of pre- and post-game shows in a not-so-fun fashion, but The Eagles lose drastically in the last 6 weeks. Keep losing. Just know how to lose. That's all they could do. And when they won, it wasn't even pretty then. So, guys, go get some sleep. Hopefully, if you're local to the area, not too much snow you're dealing with in your yard, please be careful in the morning. Guys, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.